Core conditioning is a vital part of anyone's program and as such should be introduced to your client as soon as possible. If you want your clients to move well, perform well and look well, an effective core conditioning program is a must. There are 3 categories of exercises that contribute to a strong and stable torso: trunk stabilization exercises, abdominal exercises and back extension exercises. Trunk stabilization exercises. These exercises are designed to improve the stability of the trunk using isometric contractions at a local and global level. Local stabilization involves a co-contraction between the deep TVA and multifidus. Here we can talk about creating a hollowing and a slight bracing in the midsection. Global stabilization involves contraction of all the other abdominals, the erector spinae group, and other large muscles, such as latissimus dorsi, which are needed to keep the body still in a particular position. Before starting any exercise, it is important to be in a neutral position. So quite simply, as you're laying down like this, you want to make sure that your shoulders are well away from your ears, your shoulder blades are down your rib cage, and we need to find a neutral position at the pelvis. So to do so, I'm going to ask Mike, our model, to excessively tilt his pelvis towards the ground, and then to excessively tilt the other way, and then to find a happy medium in the middle. This, more often than not, is going to be the position of your neutral. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, Mike is keeping his hands across his chest, but ordinarily they'd be down on the ground next to the body with palms up. Now we are going to demonstrate some examples of some core stabilization exercises. We're going to start at the easiest level and then progress up. The first exercise that I'm going to demonstrate with Mike is the single leg pickup. Looks like this: holding neutral, literally just picking the leg up from the floor and placing back down on the ground. The whole time he's doing this, he's making sure that his core is nice and switched on and that we're not seeing any movement happen from here up his body. Great. From here we can make this a little bit harder. So we're going to move into a single leg extension, but the leg's going to go a little bit up into the air. So from here, as he extends, the leg is kept nice and high. Again, as he's doing so, we're wanting to make sure that this position here is nice and stable and we're not seeing any movement occurring. Now, if we want to make this a little bit harder, what he can actually do is lower the leg towards the floor. Now, please just be aware that the lower the leg goes towards the ground, the harder it's going to be on this section here. Right, the next layer that we're going to add, I'm going to ask you to keep this here, is we can actually add in an arm extension at the same time. So it's going to look like this. He's going to extend away and then bring it back into the center. And away. Great, and what we're looking for here is to make sure that as he extends both his arm and his leg simultaneously away, that again, he's keeping a nice control down here in the center. What we don't want to see is any lifting or shifting like that of the body. This next stabilization exercise is called the dead ant, and you'll see why in just a minute. What we're going to do is actually ask the client to bring their knees up to 90 degrees and also bring their legs up. Hands are also going to come up in the air. Now this is a progression on those last exercises. What the client is going to do is now move opposite arm and leg away simultaneously and then bring it back in and go the other way. Now this is to be done in a slow, controlled manner, and what we're looking for is as the hands part and as the legs part, that again there's nice core control through here. What we don't want to see, just like before, is any shifting through here. This stabilization exercise is called a 4-point stance and is a progression on any of the supine exercises. This is harder than the supine exercises because, as you can see, the pelvis is no longer supported by being on the floor. In order to set up this exercise, we must start with a neutral position. So we must have a neutral neck position, so slight chin tuck, shoulder blades down the rib cage in a strong position. We want to have neutral through here. So to find that neutral again, we want to anteriorly tilt, posteriorly tilt, and then find that happy medium. It is important that the hands are directly underneath the shoulder blades and the knees are directly beneath the hips. This is the start position. From here, we're going to start by just lifting the arm up. Great. And again, the entire time that any sort of movement is occurring at the limbs, it is important to maintain this neutral position. Great. From here, we can progress this a little bit further by adding the leg. So the leg can go straight behind. And again, what we are looking for is making sure that this whole area stays nice and stable and there's not too much lateral shifting or shifting through the shoulders going on. Great. Lastly, we're going to put the two together and this is the final progression. So an arm and an opposite leg extension. And again, we want to make sure that we can see strong, stable pelvis, strong, stable scapula. This next stabilization exercise we're going to look at is called the hover. We start with our clients lying down on the ground, elbows tucked underneath them, knees flat. What we're going to do is ask them to push up through their elbows and lift their hips up from the floor into a hover-like position. This is again harder than those supine exercises for the core because there's more load now going through here. We want to make sure that they keep a neutral neck, shoulder blades are down and back, and a neutral spine. Really important to also make sure that the elbows are directly beneath the shoulders. To make the hover even harder and to progress the exercise, we're going to ask our client to push their knees up off the floor and to come up onto the toes. And this is one of the hardest stabilization exercises to actually do. Not only is this working the small stabilizers or the inner unit, it is now working on the global muscles that are required for stabilization.